Hi guys, we did an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with another episode of Wild Rift Fundamentals, and today we'll be covering the boots and the boots enchantments. So we have already covered the physical, magic, and defense items already, so now we're going to move on to the last one, which is the boot enchant. So I'm honestly wondering if we should have done a video for this, and overall I thought the answer was yes, because I did think that there were things to explain. So first up, we're going to start off at the Boots of Speed. So this one's pretty simple. Everybody probably knows what it does. It just gives you an extra 20 movement speed as well as an active, where when you press your boot button, it increases your movement speed by 15% for 3 seconds. And it's only out of combat, so if you're trying to run away from an enemy, if they attack you, it is not going to work anymore, so yes. This active also works for all the tier 2 boots, so all of these have it as well, until you get to your actual enchantments. So we're going to cover each of the tier 2 boots. First up, we got the Gluttonous Grease, my personal favorite. Of course, when you go from tier 1 to tier 2, your movement speed actually goes up to 40. For all of the boots except the Boots of Swiftness, but we'll get into that momentarily. So, 40 movement speed on the Gluttonous Grease, we get 8% of each physical and magical vamp. So this one is just for basically lifesteal. So really important for especially DPS characters like AD carries, especially if you're a crit AD carry who does not have any form of healing. Like for example, if you go for a full crit build, this could be a very key item in your build because this gives you the lifesteal that you need. So aside from that, basically anybody can take this. Strictly speaking, even tanks can, but just that it doesn't really work too well for them. So basically whoever really does damage kind of will benefit from this way more, because the more damage you deal, the more healing you will get. So something like marksmen, like fighters, normally go for this. Assassins can go for this as well, but they don't normally go for it just because their damage is all through burst, so they normally just go for other boots instead. Here we have the Boots of Swiftness, which is a very niche boots that not many people take. It gives you 10 extra move speed than all the other boots, not a whole lot, but the passive is that the movement speed slows are reduced by 30%. So for example, if a Nasus slows you, or you get slowed by like a Frozen Gauntlet, you're slowed by 30% less. And basically the only people who take this are like extremely immobile champions, sort of like Jhin or Senna. But other than Jhin and Senna, I honestly think that not many other people do build Boots of Swiftness. It's not many people do build it. Yeah, maybe Singed builds it as well, but other than that, like not many people will actually build these boots. Now we go into defensive boots, which is the Merc Tread. So it gives you 10 magic resist, and it gives you more tenacity. So it reduces the durations of all the forms of CC by 35%, which is a major amount, which is why these boots are really good pickup against CC heavy comps, or like comps like with like a Twisted Fate, for example, as a point and click gold card. Like anybody with against any kind of CC, this is really good. Even if it's only for the passive and not for the magic resist, it still is worth it majority of the times if the enemy team has a lot of CC. So as I said, who builds this is whenever there's either a lot of magic defense, magic damage on the enemy team, or a lot of CC on the enemy team. Aside from that, it's normally it's built on tanks, but it can be built on anybody. Like fighters build it as well, and even AD carries build it as well. Like for example, if I already have lifesteal, or I do think that I value the tenacity more, I can build this as well. So basically, the two defensive boots can be built on anybody in the game. Like any champion can build these. Plated Steel Caps is the armor version, gives 15 armor, and blocks 15% of damage from attacks. Now this is the reason why the armor boots are so good. 15% damage from attacks is a lot. So the Plated Steel Caps does reduce your damage taken by like 15%. It's just so strong. So the armor boots is technically one of the best. It's probably the best pickups. Like even if you are like a AD carry, even if you're a damage kind of champion, taking 15% less damage is a ton. So lastly, you have the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, which gives you 15 ability haste and reduces your spell cooldowns by 15% in addition. So basically this just gets your cooldowns faster. Normally, of course, built by mages, and very commonly built by assassins as well, who generally rely on their cooldowns as well. So yeah. Now we're gonna move on to the enchantment. So first up is the Stasis Enchant. Generally, Stasis Enchant is in general the best enchant. Basically, you turn invulnerable for and untargetable for 2.5 seconds, so you cannot do anything. You can't move, you can't cast spells. Your allies can't target you, so they can't heal you, they can't shield you. Enemies can't target you either, so they can't damage you, can't CC you. But basically, yeah, you guys probably know what it is. For 2.5 seconds, you're just stuck there. Normally, it's built on like 80 carries, it's built on like fighters. Tanks normally don't build this actually. It's normally built on like damage characters like mages, fighters, and 80 carries, just as a safety tool. Next we have Locket, which is normally built by supports. So it gives a shield to everybody nearby for 2.5 seconds, but it cannot stack because we did have a Locket meta before. So if two people activate Locket at the same time, the second Locket is cut. The shielding is cut in half, which basically makes it not worth it anymore. So this is generally built by either the support or the jungler normally. So the support normally goes for redemption because redemption gives you more for less gold. So normally most supports go for redemption, but some supports still will pick up the Locket. Normally it's picked up by the jungler because if the jungler doesn't need to go for a selfish kind of enchant, let's say he doesn't need to go for a Zhonya's Hourglass, or he doesn't need to go for like a Proto Belt, then he can actually get the Locket enchant for the team, but that doesn't happen too often. Normally it's built by the supports. And next we have the Righteous Glory enchant. So this one is pretty simple. You gain 15% movement speed for 4 seconds, but if you're in the vicinity of an enemy, like you're moving towards an enemy, sort of like a Vayne passive, you instead gain 75 movement speed. So after you reach the enemy, or after 4 seconds also, you will kind of have a AoE shockwave that will slow people down for by 50% for 2 seconds. So this enchant is really only built by people who need to gap close, people like Olaf, people like Singed. So it's a pretty niche enchant. Not too many people get this enchant. It's just like for people who want to run other people down. Even those like Darius or Garen doesn't build this enchant. It's really only like Singed and like Olaf mainly who built this enchant, I believe. Now, Proto Belt is actually one of the most underrated and useful enchants. It's actually really good, but I see like so many people undervaluing it. It basically just gives you a very small dash that cannot dash through walls, and it releases like a cone of missiles forward and 1 missile backward. So, basically, the damage on the missiles really isn't very important. It's pretty negligible damage, honestly, but you mainly use it for the dash. Now, a dash is really huge if you think about it. Normally people like Darius builds Proto Belt, so really a Proto Belt can be built on any champion who wants an extra dash, which basically is every champion because mobility is always a good thing. So for example, if you have like a Darius who doesn't have any dashes in his kit, building a Proto Belt actually gives him a dash. So it's sort of like Strike Breaker in the old Strike Breaker in League PC, where you get an extra dash. So this is huge. Like it gives a lot of characters with no mobility. So you can use it to chase or use it to escape. So a lot of like fighters and assassins like this as well. Like for example, Evelyn, who can dash forward to proc her charm. Like Darius, who can dash forward to hook. Basically 80 carries as well, who can dash in and out of the fight. Like let's say Varus and Lucian. A lot of people build this. Yeah. So QSS is normally built on carries like mages and 80 carries. Basically, it cleanses away your crowd control. So whenever you get CC'd, you press it and it removes the CC and gives you 50% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Of course, it doesn't remove any knockups or knockbacks, as those kind of CC cannot be cleansed away. So another use for it is actually when you're running away, you can just QSS for the movement speed. Not always recommended, but it is an option. I'm just putting it out there. This is a very situational item to build if there is a lot of CC in the enemy team. Now, Gargoyle's Stoneplate is normally built by tanks, and it's actually a very, very useful item for tanks. So it increases your health when you press it. It increases your health by 65%, but it does reduce your damage by 60% for 4 seconds. So you're trading off your damage for more health, but if there are more than 3 enemy heroes nearby, your health is increased by 130% instead. So this is especially useful for tanks who get in the middle of the enemy team and they need this to tank up. Tanks like Garen, tanks like Nunu. Basically, you only build this on tanks. Just this increases your tankiness a whole lot. But of course, noting that you will sacrifice damage when you're in the couple of 4 seconds of your gargoyles. So that is something to take note of. But yeah, it's built for tanks. Here we have Redemption, which is built by supports normally as one of their first few items. So basically, there is a large circular area where after like a 2.5 second delay, it comes down with a beam of light which will heal allies for a significant amount, as well as damaging enemies for 10% of their max health dealt as true damage. But it's normally used for the heal. You rarely ever use it for the damage unless someone is 1 HP and running away, because the area of redemption is quite huge. So it is possible to kill someone with a redemption who's stuck at a choke point, but normally it's not used for that. Normally it's used for either during a fight or before a fight to heal up your team. So second last, we have the Twin Shadows enchant, which will summon out 2 ghosts, which will run around the map and go to the nearest 2 enemies and reveal them. It will also slow them by 40% for 5 seconds based upon your travel time. So this is probably the most underrated and the most underused enchant, because this enchant actually brings a lot of value. Like the slow can help you catch up to enemies, and this is normally actually built by supports as well, but because most supports go for Redemption and Locket, not many go for the Twin Shadows enchant, but normally it's built on support. It can be built on other characters, like for example Graves, who wants to like chase people down as well, where he doesn't want to take the Glory enchant, so Shadows enchant is another option as well. But honestly, it's the least used enchant and not too many people use this enchant at all. So lastly, we have the Teleport, which used to be a summoner spell in League PC, but it's an enchant in the Wild Rift. So you can channel your teleport to an allied champion, structure, or ward. Now take note, you cannot teleport to a minion. So that is a very notable difference from League PC. You cannot teleport to a minion. You can only teleport to an allied tower, an allied champion, or an allied ward. So that is something important to take note of. This is normally built by top laners who like want to split push but can at the same time get to their team if a fight breaks out, like Camille and Fiora, for example. Not really built by too many other people. The only other time people build this is if there's like a dragon fight or a baron fight ongoing and they just respawn. They want to get to the fight immediately. They take the teleport and they TP to the fight. That's the only other time like anybody else builds the teleport. So yeah, with that out of the way, we've managed to cover all of the boots as well as all of the enchants. So thank you guys for watching the video, and goodbye.